GXP Podcast. Chatting with the coolest people from across the Midwest who do some awesome things.
We've been at this a minute.
And that's the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
See you next year.
Yeah, we love it.
Now, here's your host, Brian Lee.
DJ Brian Lee. DJ Brian Lee.
Oh. Yeah, you bitch.
Don't really need too much. All I really do is fuck with the drugs. Don't you fucking call me out, cause that's how I function. Need to get high and drunk just to be at the function. Fucking whores and doing drugs while I'm on a budget. Cigars and snuff mixed with the booze and buzz. Better not be talking like you think I've had enough, or I'll slap you silly and bust you up while you standing acting tough. Give me a try, come over here and call my bluff. Always said I was a classic homie, always yelling the loudest and calling out the foolish phonies. You know it. Don't act like you know me when we haven't even fucked. Tragically elastic, that rich bitch's pussy was. So I'll just load up another bowl. Offer me those blue pills cause I haven't had my full. Stare at those marijuana crystals like it's fool's gold. Give me my poker chips, grab and run before I fold. Can't trust myself with a sober life. No pot equals misery and strife. No lewd pictures equals sex offenses for life. No pills or liquor equals being your ass twice. I couldn't turn around if I tried, not with any amount of time. While I'm in the state of my mind, think about the past all night. Take another hit just to forget about it. Take another hit, I'll never live without it. Don't have any original thoughts, I just have compulsions. Always sticking my fingers down my throat when I'm feeling nauseous. Always gotta have caution when you deal with me on a Friday night. Never look back on life, that's always my best advice. Going down things.
It's such a positive song. I love it. Welcome to GXP Podcast, everybody. Thank you, everybody who has been listening so far to GXP Podcast. We appreciate every single one of you here. We got a great show today, and we got Coleman from the McAllister Hours here. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up.
Hell yeah. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Dude, thank you for coming on to GXP Podcast and making the drive here to lonely old Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Hell yeah. Well, you know, I have so many people on my podcast from Cedar Rapids, so it's kind of nice, you know, get a taste of my own medicine a little bit, taking the drive. But, you know, it's 2 hours. It's not too bad, you know.
Yeah.
Listen to some podcasts and chill, all that, you know.
Yeah, you got 4 hours on the road. I got 106 episodes. You can get through 2.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, you know, living in Iowa, you got to get used to the driving, right? Or else you're not going to make it here.
100%. I agree with you 110% there for sure. So you have your own podcast called the McAllister Hours. Am I saying that correctly?
Yep, the McAllister Hours. Yep.
I love it, man. I love it. So we're going to do a podcast today about your podcast on my podcast.
I love it.
Yeah. It's
the metaverse of podcasts.
The metaverse. I love it. We had a chance to actually hang out a little beforehand and get to know each other, which doesn't happen all the time with podcasts. So thanks again for showing up early, and we got to hang out a little bit. And yeah, man.
Hell yeah. I think that was a good social lubricant for sure.
Social lubricant.
We don't have it. You know, I'm at a bar. I feel like I should have like a whiskey on rocks or something, but instead we're doing podcasts. It's great.
You can have a whiskey and rocks. I didn't tell you couldn't. You know, I gave you the option to say, hey, you can have whatever you want here. It's just you didn't. You came with a Gatorade instead.
Yeah, I got to drive, unfortunately.
Yeah,
so I don't want to incriminate myself or anything on the GXP.
Yeah. By the time this airs, you'll be long gone, my friend. You know. So I'm going to actually head to Des Moines here in a couple of days, and thank you for inviting me on your podcast, man. I really appreciate that. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a crazy, wild ride.
Oh yeah.
On both ends here, you know? Hey, will you do my podcast and I'll do your podcast, you know, that type of thing, man.
Hey, you know, that's the best thing though, I think, you know, it's more content, and, you know, our audiences are getting us as characters and us as podcasters like on different platforms. I think it's a great thing, man.
No, I think it is as well. And Let me ask you here. You know, what is your podcast about, and how the hell did you find GXP podcast?
So I found GXP. We've had a couple, familiar faces go on both of our podcasts. I recently had Silence on.
Oh,
who,
yeah.
is part of the Iowa Music Awards. I've had Benny the Jet, Confused Breakfast. I have not had them on yet, but I've been well aware of what they do, which is awesome. They were just on Burtcast, they're killing it. And yeah, so that's kind of how I heard about you. And, I think as podcasters, we're always trying to branch out and grow our audience. So I was like, fuck it, why not? Let's just, let's see what happens, shooting you a message and all that. What was your first question? Sorry.
What's your podcast about?
Oh, what's it about?
And how'd you find me? So you're close there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the podcast isn't really about anything. I mean, it really is just a free form. I want, we were kind of talking about this before. Like, I think the best podcasts are the ones that just allow that conversation and allow an environment where, we can just kick back, have a few drinks, whatever, just chill. And I think, not to diss anyone in Iowa, but I think that is kind of lacking in the scene as a whole. Like, a platform for people of all different walks of life, all different occupations to be able to just chill, hang out, talk about whatever, not feel constricted. So that's kind of what I'm trying to provide.
I think you're doing a great job, man.
Hell yeah.
I've
Thank
only
you.
got
Appreciate
to listen to a couple episodes, or I don't even know if I've gotten all the way through them, but I wanted to get familiar with your style and the type of person you were. So, I'm super excited to have you here today, man.
Sure. Thank you, man. Like I said, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, for sure. And so I'm kind of nervous now. Like, what are you going to ask me on your podcast? Like, you don't got to indulge any of that, but
it really is just like free form. It's really just how it is in the moment. I have really, ridiculous kind of, things to pull out of a hat, I guess. I'll ask you about like UFOs or like, if there's some like moral, like, I just had Jane Swales from Guerrilla Graphics Design Agency on my podcast. We were talking about Dahmer, and I kind of was just like, because he's, more of a religious person. I was asking him, like, because in the Dahmer show, he at the end he like finds God and reconciles with that and all that. And I was just, I asked his opinion on that. Like, do you think that's possible? Or like, I think that's the core of it really when it comes to podcasting, in terms of me at least, is like really just finding something and just, curiously just being like, what do you think about this?
Right.
Like, giving them that, giving their opinion value. I mean, that's what I try to do. I think it's important.
Well, you're definitely a professional podcaster, just by the way you sound and the way you articulate. It's, you got some people that be like, yeah, man, well, so I appreciate that.
Thank you, man. That's
and,
awesome to
and
hear.
we'll get into those crazy topics for sure, 100%.
Hell yeah.
But we opened the show with a song that was very sweet and innocent. And that's your
very PG.
Yeah, it's very PG, politically correct, everything, PC, PG. I'm not gonna let my kids listen to it.
Yeah, don't.
They already listen to that shit, anyways. Right. Not saying it was shit. God, man, I'm just shooting myself in the foot here, aren't I?
Well, this was from a podcast, everybody.
Yeah, and that's the podcast. Yeah, right. Please come back.
No, it's kind of funny. Like I was kind of on the spot. I was like, "Fuck it, I'll let you play my music." But like, I haven't really done anything with rap in like probably a year. I've just been focused on the podcast and video production. Because listening to that song, even listening to it now, like that's not really my persona anymore. Sure. Like I used to be like this really reckless, just like fuck it, whatever kind of guy, and like. Now I'm like structured. I have things to actually look forward to in life, Like I did this song called Slut, where in the chorus I'm talking about like how I'm like getting all this money from mommy and daddy, and I'm like, I don't do that anymore. Like I'm not, like I'm a more independent person. Why am I even like up here trying to be a rapper? I'm not a rapper. And that's another thing. Like on my podcast, I have people from that walk of life come through, and they're great. I love them, but like I look at their lifestyle, I'm like, not for me.
Sure,
not my thing.
Well, I mean, the song was well put together.
Thank you.
You. Did you write it and record it?
Yeah. So I wrote the lyrics. Shout out to Dirt Lord, Dirt Nasty Beats for doing the beat on that. He's like one of the top producers in Iowa, in my opinion. His beats slap. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of just like an example, a showcase of like, you know, like I said, like my reckless tendencies, like my, you know, and I still struggle with that, sure. But like, you know, there was a time where I was really deep in stuff. You know, I was taking a lot of Xanax, you know, just, you know, taking a lot of acid, things like that. Just a lot of just crazy shit. And, you know,
Jesus. I'm not judging here by any means, but I was like, I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I mean, I'm open about, you know, my past experiences in drug use. Like I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
People knowing about that.
I don't either. I was just.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, your bio did not say anything about that.
Wouldn't that be? How far would I get? Do you think if I just like the first line? I'm like, these are all the drugs I've ingested,
and you just watch your ratings go through the roof, right? I like this guy, you know.
Well, you know, that's kind of the crazy thing too. With TikTok, those are the clips that always kill. The ones where people talk about their drug stories. You know, we had a libertarian governor candidate Rick Stewart on our podcast. We've had him a couple times, and he talked about his drug trail to Morocco and how like he could buy weed for like 5 cents a gram, and like he just was traveling to South America to do cocaine, and he just like went on this whole thing, and that's like our most viewed clip on TikTok.
As it should be.
Yeah, right. Like it's a great fucking story, you know?
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, well, and you know, I think, you know, going back to like, you know, Iowa in general and like having topics, like, you know, everything's still legal here for the most part. I feel like a lot of people, it's hard to find that platform where you can really, you know, talk about your trips or talk about your experiences. And, you know, I want to be able to do that. I want somebody to be able to talk about, you know, a near-death psychedelic experience. Like, I want them to be able to get into that on my show.
I love it. So we're going to get into it on my show. And we're going to talk about your best and your worst trips.
My best and worst trips.
Yeah.
So my worst trips are with mushrooms.
Yeah?
Yeah, I cannot do much. Dude, when I take mushrooms, I have like murderous tendencies.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really weird. Like,
Yeah.
I'll
Stay the fuck away from
stay the-
mushrooms.
Yeah. No, you know, and like, I understand like most people have, you know, positive experiences from psilocybin, and like, I think it should be legalized. I think, you know, you should be able to do that. But, you know, and that's kind of like my criticism about the marijuana industry too, is as that's grown, I feel like a lot of people are just like, oh yeah, just take mushrooms. Just like, you know, you'll be fine. And like, you know, some people are not fine.
No.
Like someone like me, I'm gonna like, no, I'm not gonna like kill anyone or anything. But like, no, I mean, I've had experiences where like I'm taking mushrooms with someone and I'm like next.
You jumped off to that subject real quick. It's not like I'm going to kill anybody, but if I had instances.
Hey, I'm a wild guy.
We're going to have a lot of fun this week, man.
Hell yeah.
You know?
Oh, I know it. I can already feel it. But yeah, I mean, probably the last time. So I took this thing called 4-ACO-MET, which is the person who told me said it was mushrooms, but it's not really mushrooms. It's a government tranquilizer, and I had like the worst. I felt like, I don't know, when you trip, it's hard to describe trips because you kind of just, you know, you're not going to understand it unless you actually take it. But like, it was just this weird thing where I just felt like I was in between dimensions almost. Like I was sitting on the couch, but I was also far away and just in my head. Like we were watching Rain Man, and everything just felt flat and weird. I kept like going in and out of the movie in my thoughts. So that's probably the worst drug experience I've ever had. And, you know, I was sitting next to my girlfriend and, you know, I was having thoughts about harming her, which I've never had before. I don't have to this day. She's a very sweet lady. But, like, it's kind of just the intrusive thought, too. Like,
Sure.
That was just coming into my head, and it was weird, man.
I've heard about that before where people have thoughts in their heads that they never, ever have before when they're on psilocybin.
Yeah,
But it also helps a lot of people, too, from what I understand. You know, a lot of people with PTSD and depression and alcoholism and so forth.
Yeah, well, I do wonder that. I've always kind of wondered, like, if I was in a situation where I had a therapist with me and, like, we took something like that and actually worked through things, like, maybe I would have a more positive time. But, like, just me on my own, like, nah, I'm not taking mushrooms. Like,
Don't watch fucking Rain Man on it. That's for sure. That is, you know, the advice that we can give everybody out there. Don't watch Rain Man on mushrooms.
wait, am I autistic?
I can count. Yeah, that sounds like a horrible trip, man. I wouldn't recommend that. Now, I'm not saying just on psilocybin, but you said you took acid before. Have you ever had any enjoyable trips?
Yes. So LSD is like that's my trip of choice. I really wish they would have like a shorter like time dose, because when you take acid, it's like a 10-12 hour experience.
Yeah.
Like your whole weekend is gone essentially if you take acid. I'd say probably the most, I don't know about the best, but the most positive experience I've had from LSD was I actually quit smoking cigarettes
Really?
from a trip. Yeah.
Well, congrats, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. It's been 2.5 years now.
Good for you. Yeah.
I still have the occasional cigar, but like
I still trip my balls off, but I don't smoke anymore.
well, it's kind of
Maybe you should take up smoking again.
That's something my dad would say.
Yeah, right.
He's like,
Well, maybe the cigarettes weren't as bad.
Sorry, man. No, you're fine. You're fine. But no, so I, pandemic hit, and I had been trying to quit. Like I was on like a 3-week streak, and then pandemic, I was like, fuck it, went and bought a pack. So I ingested acid, and I had about 1 or 2 cigarettes during that trip, and like I was just disgusted. Like I couldn't. I was like almost forcing them down.
Right.
Because like sometimes when I would trip, it would like almost be like an anxiety thing for me. Like I would feel a little anxious during trip. Like, I'll just have a cigarette. But then anyways, I woke up the next morning and like I had like half a cigarette, and it was like the most disgusting thing ever. And I just threw it out. Haven't touched it since. Like I'll to this day, because the thing that they always say about ex-smokers, and this is 100% true, like the smell of cigarettes is so much stronger than like you will ever experience in your life.
Yeah.
Like I'll be on my front porch and there'll be somebody 3 houses down smoking a cigarette, and it'll be like they're right next to me. Yeah. It's
Or
crazy.
like a car drives by you and people are smoking in it. Like you get that. But like when you're a smoker, you don't pick up on that.
Not at all,
Is it
not
because
at
the
all.
senses are, different, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just kind of that normal thing of like, you get used to it.
Yeah.
It's like if somebody has like bad BO, there's a good chance they probably don't even know it.
Yeah, like how do you not smell yourself?
Yeah.
But
Well, I used to smoke in my apartment.
Oh, yeah.
So like by the time this was probably 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago. But when I moved out, like you could literally see in the walls. The walls were like yellow and like, just living in your own smoke. I can't imagine myself doing that.
Yeah,
now.
and you smell people like in grocery stores that smoke in their house. You can definitely tell that it has a different odor. It doesn't even smell like actual cigarettes. It smells like old cigarettes or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Like a residue, like something's been here. Yeah.
Yeah.
A cigarette has been walking around.
Could you imagine Dahmer's apartment and what that smelled like?
Dead bodies and cigarettes.
Yeah. And booze.
Booze. Did you watch that?
I did.
Yeah. What'd you think of it?
I thought it was actually really, really intriguing.
Me too.
The first episode I was extremely uncomfortable with. Because of how it started. I didn't know a whole lot about the actual case.
Oh, really?
Living in Iowa at the time, it was, basically, a serial killer killed a bunch of people and he ate them. That's
baseline. Yeah.
It was the early '90s when this came out, so I was still a little young, and I didn't really get into the news like they didn't really go in depth with it. I don't remember them going in depth with it like they did. I didn't know that he targeted gay people of color.
Yeah.
They didn't ever go into any of that.
Well, the policing was like, that was the thing that shocked me.
Yeah, they covered that all up.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because like I feel like when Netflix puts out those shows, a lot of times like I kind of always had that radar for like the whatever the political messaging or whatever. But that was like one of the times where it felt poignant to like actually call out these cops because their behavior was horrible. I mean, it was very like homophobic or whatever. Like they just didn't want to deal with it. They're like, oh, it's just here's some gay people. Just there's a 14-year-old kid, but like he's gay, so we're just not gonna. I'm not gonna worry about it. And just the whole from the top down trying to cover it up, and how the cops became reinstated and even got an award.
Yeah.
Like that shit was crazy, man.
And going back after watching the movie, right, that Netflix put out, there was several documentaries that were released afterwards with the actual tapes of him talking and this and that. So, I mean, it was pretty historically accurate from what I understand.
Well, I mean, they were really spot on with the dialogue, like, because you like his like final testimony, especially, like, if you watch that tape, I feel like they almost got that, like, almost 100%, like, to the point. You know, Evan Peters killed that role.
Yeah,
he did. So, like, I feel like that one of the best performances of this decade, like, by far.
Could you imagine, like, you're trying to make it in the acting world, and they're like, "Hey, we got a great role for you," and you're like, "Okay, yeah, what is it?" And they tell you, and you're like,
Am I really that bad?
Everybody said I look like him, but I never believed him.
I was the cute guy in American Horror Story, and I'm fucking Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, I know. You know, but after getting through like the first episode, I was hooked. I had to see how it played out and to see what they did with it. And you got to thank Netflix for knocking it out of the park there. You know.
Yeah. Well, I think Ryan Murphy, the director.
Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't really seen a lot of his stuff. I saw a little bit of American Horror Story. Couldn't really get into it just because. I mean, it was a really well done show, but like I feel like an entire season worth of like one, you know, story or archetype is just a lot. I just couldn't get through it. But I mean, he mastered that miniseries, you know, expertly.
Yeah.
The cinematography was on point. Like, and I remember like it started, and I almost kind of hated how it started, like with that, how him getting captured. But like as it develops, it makes sense. And it's like, oh, it's almost like this Tarantino in like juxtaposed type of thing. It was really cool.
Yeah. I had reservations going into it based on, you know, people who already watched it and talked about it on social media. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I can handle this, but
yeah. What do you think about the controversy with it?
I thought it was great. I mean, to be honest with you, it's something that needed to be exposed, and it's something that needs to be accepted and understand that there is, you know, this is happening, not the murders and everything, but like there is similar stories of, you know, still to this day of you know, homophobia and people not feeling comfortable in their own skin, you know. And I thought, you know, like I said, the news never ever talked about that.
Yeah, that's, you know, homophobia has always tripped me up because, like, you know, racism, you can at least like see the person's color of their skin. Right. But like, I lived in a small town right before my divorce in Kansas, South Dakota, and the homophobia there was wild. I mean, I don't think there was a single gay person in that town.
Wait a minute, in South Dakota it was?
Yep.
Oh, weird.
Yep. Kind of like by Sioux City a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of the Northwest. I grew up in Northwest Iowa, so it was kind of, it was kind of next door. But yeah, I mean, there wasn't a single, you know, gay or homosexual person there, but like you'd go into a bar and everybody be talking, oh, Adam and Steve, not Adam and, or, you know, they would just be, you know, making digs at homophobia. I just never understood that. It pissed me off. I was like, why the fuck do you care about what two people are doing in their bedroom?
Right.
I do not understand it.
Right. I agree with you 110% there because it shouldn't matter. And the fact that this was, you know, technically in our backyard, just kind of like making a murder, you know, just in Wisconsin, where you think it's a safe place, you know. I mean, Milwaukee has its areas and so forth, but so does every other major metropolis. But you know, you think about like Wisconsin as, oh, it's a nice safe place, but a lot of shit's happened there as well.
Yeah, hiding in plain sight type of deal. You know? Well, and like I grew up in a small town, and Orange City, Iowa. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but low key a little cultish. Like,
yeah, sure.
You know, just very religious centric. Which, you know, I'm not religious, but if you are, that's fine. But like to a point where it was like cult. It was and like so. I mean, I guess I can, you know, relate to Dahmer. Like, I think it is very possible for someone to like kind of live in the shadows,
sure,
or, you know, or even like live it, you know, be like this, you know, outstanding person in the community, but they have this dark side where they're like, you know, they have whatever in their closet, they have whatever thing going on, and it could be that he's eating people. You know?
Yeah, that I mean, that part I still don't understand. I mean, after watching.
What, the cannibalism, you mean?
Yeah, you know, after watching some of the documentaries afterwards, it was more of like he wanted to keep that person with them because, you know, but still, I don't agree with any of that.
No.
I don't agree with murdering people
I'm
either.
pro cannibalism, actually.
Yeah.
That's my stance. That's my controversial.
It's gonna get weird. You know?
No, I'm kidding. But I was actually listening to something about it. Apparently it had to do with like there's like when you look at like organs, there's like a glistening.
Yeah, I've
and
heard
like,
that.
And I think he was like sexually aroused by that.
Right.
Like he got turned on by like the guts and like, and then like obviously he had, tokens, like he had the skulls and, body parts and stuff that he would keep for that, or totems or whatever. So yeah, crazy shit, man.
Yeah, and then he wanted to try and make them zombies, like sex zombies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, by doing like lobotomies through hydrochloric acid.
Yeah. Well, and that's almost kind of like, and I can see where a lot of this criticism comes from, like in the show where like they almost made him sympathetic, whereas like you kind of almost understand why he did that, why he like wanted to take all these people, like he wanted to like absorb people almost.
Yeah.
He's like this is his way to like almost like in a fucked up way. It's his way to make friends.
Yeah.
And like there's an underlying part where it's like, yeah, I feel kind of bad they can't make friends, but like don't eat your friends.
Yeah. Or how about just start by not killing them?
Yeah,
and then we'll work on the cannibalism part once you stop murdering people.
We'll start with salads.
Start with salads.
We'll make a person salad.
Yeah. We'll make you vegan.
We'll make you a Caesar. What's the technical term for human?
I don't know. Yeah.
Cobb human salad.
Cobb human salad.
This bit's gone on too long. I think.
Yeah. Chef special. Yeah. Well, man, yeah, but it's good to talk about these things, and again, I'm glad that Netflix went ahead and tackled something like this, because it's obviously raised a lot of awareness, not only to his lifestyle, but also with the corruption of the enforcement and the police enforcement system, all over the country.
Yeah, I mean, and I know you're not a political podcast, so we don't have to get into that, but like, I mean, it is a really big problem with the police. I think if because you look at that, what they're doing, it's like it's drugs and guns.
Yeah,
is like the main thing that they're tackling. It's like, if you alleviate those things, how much purpose do they really have? That's just kind of my thing. We don't have to get into that. But.
No, that's fine. But that was one of the bigger things that was uncovered with this is this could have been stopped several times before. Several times.
Yeah. Well, and I don't like the this like surveillance state that we live in, but that is kind of one of the positives, right?
Right.
Is it's really hard for someone to go out and like kill and eat 17 people now.
Yeah, well, everybody has cameras on their house or several
Yeah.
cameras on their homes, and
Exactly.
you're seeing this a lot in these police reports that are coming across on the news now. And I'm not a big news guy to like watch the news or anything, but you're seeing that, people are, the authorities are saying, if you have any footage of this, we would like to see it if you can turn it over to us. So I think that's the positive with it.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely provides a way to like know, exactly what happened. And I mean, there's good and bad to that, but I mean, in terms of like a murder, like someone being murdered, someone being maliciously attacked, like, yeah, that's definitely a good thing to have evidence for that and to, put them behind bars.
I like it, man. I like it. So
LSD. No.
Yeah, I was actually just going to get back to that. So tell us about your good trip now, because I think we got sidetracked, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, so basically, I mean, that positive experience from
not smoking, I guess.
Not smoking. Yeah. I mean, and it's kind of weird. I haven't really touched it since, and a lot of that is because it's not legal. I know in Des Moines a couple years ago there was some bad acid going around where kids were going. It just had, I don't know what in it, but it had something else in it that wasn't acid, and it made it, made them have a bad trip. And I also want to say too, like talking about psychedelics, I do think people should be careful. I do think people should not just use it willy nilly. Like, you should research your drugs. You should, test your drugs. I think that's a practice that could alleviate so many problems. If it was just commonplace to be like, oh, hey, you have your whatever drug you have, like, here's a testing kit. Let's make sure it's legit.
They have testing kits for LSD and all that, I guess. I mean, to show like the potency. And,
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I don't know. So that's where I'm ignorant.
Yeah, well, so I think how it works is like, you have how you have those like colored strips.
Like a pH strip or something like that?
Yeah. It's like something like you can order online
Yeah.
or get at I think you even get at Walgreens. And you just like, like if you had acid or something, you could put in water. And,
Can you show me the aisle where I test my LSD? Aisle 6, come on over.
maybe not quite like that. It's like going into a head shop and like, you don't say bong, you say water pipe.
Yeah. Tobacco water pipe.
I need my tobacco water pipe with a marijuana leaf on it.
Yeah,
please.
with the marijuana leaf. I'm a supporter.
I don't smoke it. I just support
I
it.
just support. What percentage of the proceeds go to the Marijuana Foundation?
I won't buy it if it's under 30.
Right. Yeah. Well, the wheels officially fell off at about 20 minutes into this podcast. So sorry about that, whoever's paying attention.
Did you expect anything less from having a fellow podcaster on?
No, I'm glad that we're having this, but we almost had a full podcast before this podcast, just getting to know each other. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But hey, you're coming on mine in a few days. Maybe we can recollect on some of those basic.
yeah. No, it's gonna get fucking weird. It's gonna get way fucking weird. I promise.
So part of my bill to legalize cannibalism. No.
Cannibals. There he goes again. Hates God, loves cannibalism. So.
God damn it! Fuck you.
I think I deserve that. I don't know.
You just made every fucking atheist look like a cannibal. Fuck you. No.
Wait, I did? No. Oh boy, GXP podcast. This is what happens here sometimes. And,
Hell yeah.
And people need to realize that not every podcast needs to be cut and dry. Interviews, answers, yes, no, this, that, facts. It's a lot of fun. So.
I agree. Like, have you ever watched like the Mike Tyson podcast, Hot Boxing or whatever?
I haven't. I mean, I've seen clips of it, whatever, but I haven't sat down and or just watched it.
Well, that's
listened to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's an example, like for me, where like I look at a podcast that's like really edited. Like if I'm listening to a podcast and I can tell that it's edited, I turn it off.
Yeah.
Because like we were talking before, like Joe Rogan was a big thing for me, like getting into podcasts, and I think recently that's changed, but for a long time he did not edit. That was like his rule. Like,
You're right.
Like I refuse to edit. Like we're talking, we're doing it. I don't give a fuck. And going back to like my podcast, that's kind of the thing that I've tried to emulate. I don't edit. I once had a guy, he came on my podcast and he asked me, "Can I take your episode and edit it?" I was like, "Fuck no, what? No." He was like, I talked about my family and my growing up. Like, you want people to know about that? Then like, why did you talk about it on the podcast?
Yeah, I get you 110%. I mean, there's things that I edit throughout the podcast, like if somebody comes in or.
So the cannibalism part's out, right?
No, that's in. That's 100% in. We've never ever talked about cannibalism on GXP podcast. So thank you, Netflix and Dahmer.
Yeah.
And the McAllister Hours talks, for bringing that up.
I'm glad I could pop your cannibalism cherry.
Ew. It's so nasty. Was it a glistening cherry?
It was.
It was glistening.
Yeah, that got really hard. All right, podcast is over, everybody.
Yeah. And it's off track.
Again.
There we go. Yeah. But if you have like a malfunction, if power outage, this and that, just to make it the podcast seem like it was seamless. I don't edit my podcast to take out content.
Yeah.
Unless it's something I said. That's why I don't drink on my podcast anymore.
I've had that problem.
I had to go back.
There.
I've had to delete entire podcasts because I was
shit.
Yeah.
I had to do that recently too.
Yeah.
We had to take down a whole podcast. It was well, part of it was because of the the people that were on it, they had a thing going and I didn't want to mess it up, so that was part of why I agreed to. But yeah, I mean, you do have, so we have a thing on our podcast called the Fucked Up Bucket.
The Fucked Up Bucket?
The Fucked Up Bucket.
I like it already.
Right now it's in process because I think of all the fucked up things. And sometimes, I don't think of fucked up things so that we don't have a bucket. But basically it's like a bucket of like prompts. and just like prompts and like also just statements. Like we, so a friend of the podcast, Lolo Savage, one time he was talking about segregation. He was talking about how he believed that in America we could have cities like a black city and a white city and a Mexican city.
No.
And he's a weird. I mean, he's half black, half white. So I mean, he's a weird, eccentric guy. But like, so we had this topic in the bucket: can segregation work? And like, that made them uncomfortable, obviously.
Sure.
But again, this kind of goes back to like the free form, like. I try to be edgy. I try, it says in my bio, the craziest podcast in Iowa. I really try to live up to that. And, if I get canceled in the process, at least I was crazy, like crazy good.
Right. So
Hopefully.
I didn't know I was going on the most controversial podcast in Iowa. Or
Yeah.
craziest podcast. What did you say?
The craziest podcast in Iowa.
Craziest podcast
Yeah.
in Iowa.
So if you don't want to come on anymore, I understand.
No, I'm coming on. I'm definitely coming on now.
You're going to tell it to me straight.
Knock this off. Yeah. I got 2 days to dig up some fucked up shit. Is this how we're doing it? This is what we're doing now, huh? All right, this is what we're doing. I like it,
Well, I actually brought some research of my own about
Shit. I literally was like, here we go.
No, and that's like, I do admit there's sometimes in my podcast where like, I feel like that's where I, because you record so many podcasts in a week and you're like, oh, I did not research that person
Yeah.
near as much as I should have.
Yeah. It happens. It
does
happens.
happen.
Especially when you're doing as many podcasts as you're talking about.
Yeah.
3 or 4 a week. And you have people requesting to be on your show and you don't know anything about them. And,
Yeah.
And if they don't have a Wikipedia or anything like that.
Yeah. Not many people around here have
and about
Wikipedia.
like minute 19, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
How do I get out of this?
Oh yeah, no, that's always like, you can always tell if a podcast is going good if you look down at your time and you're like, oh shit,
Yeah.
we've already been talking 45 minutes versus like, oh, we've only been talking 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Fuck. I have
7
nothing else.
minutes? God damn it. Yeah.
One of my earliest podcasts, it was like a 13-minute long episode. And
That's it?
yeah. Well,
Just 13 minutes?
yeah, well, it was weird because like it was just such an uncomfortable, like they were just being weird. It was such an uncomfortable situation that in that 13 minutes we took 2 breaks. Because they just wouldn't talk. Like they wouldn't give me anything. They even had this whole thing where they were doing like this like underground like fighting. They were like breaking shit over each other's heads, and they couldn't even get into that for like more than a minute. And yeah, so and then the guy at the end, he like pulled out a blunt. I'm like, all right, we gotta take the episode down. Like, bro, come on, you're killing me.
Honestly, I have no problem with it.
I don't either, and I really wish Iowa would legalize it because that would be the cake on our, that would be the cherry on top for podcasters being able to open up with a joint or something.
Right.
Like it it can like kind of stifle the conversation a little bit, but if you're with the right people, also having a beer also kind of helps the conversation with that. But like, yeah, I mean, I definitely wish it would be legalized. But vote for someone who's going to legalize that.
Right,
shit. That's what I say.
Now, I can't smoke and jump on a podcast because then I'm fucking stoned, and it just doesn't go well.
Yeah.
You're sitting there just listening to somebody, and then all of a sudden the camera's on you, and you're just like,
you got to gauge it,
Not that I ever have been.
Yeah.
So,
we don't. This is all satire. We don't-
this hypothetical. Yeah, exactly. But a lot of people I see they're coming into town to jump on the podcast. Maybe it's their first podcast, maybe it's their 5th. I don't know. But they're like, "Where's the liquor store?" True story, because they got to get a couple shots in them to loosen up, and we're so used to and accompanied by the entire environment that it doesn't bother me at all. But I can see how some people, get really nervous. And
Yeah, I mean, I still get nervous. I still get anxiety. Like every episode, I'm like paced. Like if someone's coming to my house or studio or whatever, like I'm pacing around. Like I'm about to do this. Like it. I think that just speaks to like my overachieving perspective attitude, which I think is good. But like yeah, I mean, there's so many episodes where like people tell me like, oh, that was such a great episode. I'm like, really? I thought that was a garbage episode. You know?
But you did great.
Yeah. You as the host were great.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've been DJing weddings and DJing in the public for 27 years, and you know, like even before every wedding, I'm nervous, and it's funny, like people I've dated or my family and that they're like, really, you're still nervous? Why? And I'm like, because it means something. It means something, especially weddings, because that's somebody's big day, right? And if you fuck it up, like, man, that's a bad deal.
Yeah, well, and you know, I think, you know, anxiety, if you want to get into this rabbit hole, like anxiety in general, like I used to believe for a long time that like I needed to vanquish my anxiety. I needed to make sure, like, you know, that's why I took a lot of Xanax. Like, I needed to make sure that there was no way I could ever have any kind of anxiety, because I get really, my chest gets really tight. I have a hard time breathing. You know, obviously you get in your head. But, you know, I really think it just speaks to like a prehistoric time almost, where like, you know, we were out in the wild hunting our food and, you know, growing our food, you know, Neanderthals, or not Neanderthals, like humans way back in the day, you know, we were spending all day doing something. And now we live in an environment where, you know, you have your 9 to 5 or whatever, and then you just are sitting there. You know, I mean, a lot of people are just sitting there, you know, watching TV or doing nothing. And like, so how we are programmed in modern life is almost, you know, contradictory to what we're biologically supposed to be, which is, you know, out with a spear, throwing it at a gazelle, and trying to hunt it down, you know?
Which sounds hard as fuck, by the way. Could you imagine that? Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean, well, and that's another thing, too, like how much time they must have had to spend, like practicing that. Like, how many people do you know, like, spend that much time practicing anything, probably, you know?
10,000 hours,
yeah.
Become a professional.
Yeah,
you know,
true.
I mean, a lot of those, but
yeah, I would like to count up my hours on the podcast. Am I there yet? Am I at 10,000?
It depends. I mean, not with 13-minute episodes. No, it's a lot of episodes, man.
Yeah, well, you know, and not to shit on podcasters, but to kind of shit on podcasters, like a minute isn't a podcast. Like, I'm sorry, if you have like 10 episodes that are a minute each, like that's not, in my mind, that's not a podcast.
Right.
That's a snippet.
Yeah.
I make clips that are a minute long, you know.
Try to go for 90 seconds, you know, for the most part, so I can at least put it on TikTok. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, we were talking about this earlier. I'm an old radio guy. And so you were talking about doing podcast where it's just you talking on a podcast.
Yeah.
And I admitted to the fact that I've never just done a podcast with myself. And I've always had a guest or somebody else to banter off of.
Yeah.
And then I got thinking about it. I was like, well, I did it for radio, but it was 30 to 45 second burst. So being on a podcast by yourself, you have done this before.
Yeah.
Can you explain or maybe give me some advice on if I tried to tackle that and how you felt about it and if you're going to go forward with it?
So as I was telling you before, I'm not a fan of solo podcasts. Just because A, they don't generate as much like attention. B, it's just me, you know, jackass Coleman just talking about whatever. When I approach it, when I do it and approach it, I usually like I'll have like a list of like 5 things. You know, whether it's like topics that are in my mind, like, you know, kind of comedic rants, or if it's just something that happened in the news, like, so that's usually what I go off of. Okay. I used to like, I had a period where I was like actually even trying to do like some local news type of stuff, like with guests. But I don't know, like, you know, like we were talking about, you know, before, like I just, my strength is in the conversation. My strength is in like pulling things out of guests. So yeah, I mean, like I do a solo episode when I have to, but I'm almost at the point now where like I would rather just take a break, or you know, maybe get my girlfriend on the podcast, or, you know, just even if I've had a guest for like 10th time, like just getting back on, like I'd rather do that than like do a rant, because I don't know, maybe this is just me not giving myself enough credit, but like I can't imagine myself being like interesting, like just me myself. Like I know that the strength of my podcast is how I interview people.
Sure.
So it almost seems counterproductive to just be like if Joe Rogan did a solo podcast, like, I don't think that'd be any good.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be a good episode.
Right.
You know?
I've had guests on several times, and especially if they're great guests, because it's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
And tell me a time where, I mean, besides the 13-minute episode, where you maybe not regretted, but you read the podcast wrong. You thought it was going to be something else, and it turned out to be, something completely different.
Well, this is kind of getting into politics. We'll stray away from the nitty gritty of it, but I'm a libertarian, and I interview a lot of people from the Libertarian Party. Myra Mateka, I think that's her. I always struggle with her last name. We did a Zoom podcast, and I just felt like I was really unprepared for that because, my parents are both lawyers. My dad's actually a judge. He was a prosecutor. He ran for county attorney a couple different years. So that political sphere has always just been in my upbringing. I've always just been really interested in politics. Even with that, I could not keep up with her. I felt like there were times where she was just going. I'm she would just keep going, and I'm like, I don't know what to counteract with, And I have interviewed other libertarians and had kind of developed that and just kind of been better at asking questions, asking things. And I think a lot of it too, is just letting them talk. But yeah, I mean, I think that's been a struggle. Also, we kind of talked about this before. If I have a guest come in, they just, they've never been on a podcast. I think a lot of people think they'll do well on a podcast, and then they actually come on and they're like, I don't know what to talk about. Or you ask them something and they're just like, yeah, or is a vibe. No, dude, that's nothing.
It's a vibe. How many episodes do you have out right now? I mean, you can ballpark.
So I just put out episode 143.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
143.
Yeah, it's I'm constantly questioning whether it's worth it.
Yeah.
Whether it's worth all the work. Because I'm doing twice a week now.
Yeah.
And honestly, and I work, I'm in school, I got a lot going on. So I'll admit there are times, there are weeks where I don't make that 2 episode quota. But I think the people who are really podcasting professionally, you see them doing, 2 to 5 episodes a week.
Yeah.
And I think, if I want to be taken seriously as a podcaster, I got, that's where the meat is, the episodes. You could be the person that has, 1 episode a month, and that could be the best episode ever, but you're still only doing it once a month.
Right.
If you want to compete in the internet climate, you got to have your clips. You got to have multiple episodes. You got to be able, I probably spend per episode twice the length of the episode just on editing, making clips, posting, going on, the media, manager pages or whatever, and figuring everything out, scheduling everything. It's a lot of work.
It is.
And I'm looking for those sponsors. Go subscribe to that Patreon. Make it make it more monetarily worth it for me.
Right.
But no, I love it. It's my passion. I've done, I'm in video stuff right now. We heard our song. I've been doing music for a while. And I feel like podcasting though is the one thing that, one of the things that I've really found success in, where this thing that I've created where people actually fuck with it.
Yeah.
We were listening to our music, or my music, obviously people are going to be turned off by that. People are going to, think I had a friend of mine, he's like, that was the fucking wackest album I've heard all year,
But at least he was honest.
Yeah. Well, and that goes into podcasting too. I want to be honest. I want to be upfront. I don't want to be someone who, has a persona or has this, this fake identity.
Sure.
I'm me. I'm unapologetically me. I'm kind of an asshole. I have some controversial, questions and opinions, but fuck it. That's who I am.
No, that's good, man. And you should be that way.
Yeah.
And it's your show, and you can do whatever you want with it.
Exactly.
140 plus episodes. That's amazing. So you're definitely up there in the podcast world. People, a lot of podcasts don't go past 5 or to 10 episodes. So congratulations on that, man.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact statistics, but it's some enormous percentage of 70+% of podcasts don't make it past episode 20.
Yeah.
Because they lose the juice.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it takes a lot of effort and you got to constantly be putting in more and more effort and upgrading your equipment, upgrading your shows,
Yes.
your content. It's a full-time job.
It really is.
That doesn't pay hardly anything.
It's not paying a minimum wage. that's
Yeah,
for sure.
right. But fuck it, it's a lot of fun doing it.
It is. It is.
And when you get good guests like you on, it makes it fly by. Here we are, almost an hour in.
Wow.
I know, right? See,
Jeez.
yeah, and it all started with Dahmer.
Well, I think it started with. Didn't it start with
started
psychedelics?
drugs, drugs, and then Dahmer. Yeah,
Well, that's my forte. So it's a good thing that we started there. Actually, no better way to start a podcast.
yeah,
I'd say.
than psychedelics and cannibalism.
They go hand in hand. By the way. Just take some mushrooms and find a loose arm. and-
No pun intended with the hand-in-hand part.
That's funny.
I thought you meant to do it. Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, and that's just my like autistic self too. Is like things will just fucking go over my head like that. I'm just like, oh, that like there will be moments in the podcast where like I'll say something and like I won't realize it's funny, and then they'll like start laughing like, oh, I guess that was funny.
I guess it's funny. Yeah,
I try.
just like that.
yeah, exactly.
It's awesome. The McAllister Hours. The McAllister Hours.
Yes,
Okay.
the McAllister Hours podcast. Yep.
Okay. And where can we find that? What's your social media?
So it's just it's McAllister Hours on Instagram. I technically have a Twitter, but don't go on there. I don't use it. Otherwise, I'm on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. I'm on pretty much every audio outlet you can think of. We do YouTube. We haven't done a live stream in a while, but we usually do live streams. And yeah, that's on every Monday and Thursday at 7 p.m.
Awesome.
So wherever you find your podcast, I'll be there.
Out of Des Moines, Iowa.
Yep, Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah, man.
Exactly.
I can't wait to come on your show, man.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to having you, man.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and honestly, it'll be my second podcast ever that I was a guest on.
Wow.
Right.
This is actually my first time I've been. Well, so I've been on other podcasts, but it's all been over Zoom. So this is my first one, like in person.
All right.
On another podcast. So yeah, this honestly went a lot better than I thought it would.
So you popped my cannibalism cherry, and I popped your podcast cherry, right? That's how it works.
Exactly. We popped each other's cherries. I'm so
Oh boy.
you're gonna have fun Thursday, my friend.
I'm gonna have fun editing this. It's
Gotta
it's,
cut this
it's
out,
going straight
motherfucker.
raw. Yeah.
It's gonna be a 12-minute episode.
12 minutes. We recorded for an hour and a half. What happened?
Motherfucker, what happened?
No breaks. Oh shit,
Hell
man.
yeah.
Coleman, you're a great dude.
Hey, thanks.
I'm glad that you reached out. Actually, you reached out to me,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that Silence and Benny and several other people suggested the podcast as well. So I'm glad that you made the trip here to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and we got to hang out for a little bit beforehand, and then hang out here on the podcast, man. So I appreciate you
Hell
coming
yeah.
here, and make sure everybody check out the McAllister Hours
Yes.
podcast. And I might even make an appearance on his podcast here soon.
Yes,
So,
very
yeah,
soon.
man.
Hey man, I appreciate you having me on. I love, like we were talking, I like Confused Breakfast, and like there's all LAS Media Group, like there are all these forces in the Cedar Rapids podcast game right now, and I'm jealous. I wish y'all would just move to Des Moines so we could just,
And some of it might happen.
It might happen.
It might
Yeah.
happen, man. I'd love it, man.
I would love it.
Do you want to shout at anybody out right now?
No, fuck,
No,
I'm
fuck
kidding.
no.
No, I'm kidding.
Fuck these people.
Go check out Starbucks Productions. They're that's run by Austin Blythe. They're a local. He puts on shows. He put on a show a festival called Field Trip, which I went to. That was a lot of fun. It was like EDM and hip hop stuff.
I love that.
Also, Guerrilla Graphics Design Agency. I'm actually a member of their company. I'm going to be lead editor for them. So I actually had him on recently, Jaden Swales. Go check that company out. Also, my friend Lolo Savage. He's a rapper, really eccentric dude. He's been on my podcast several times. If you like hip hop, go check out his stuff.
I love it, man.
Yeah, I think those Confused Breakfast. I already said that. Audible Farm, but Pierce Stockdale. He's another local podcast. You should definitely check him out. He's kind of more in the Northwest Iowa, Fort Dodge area, but He and I have been, doing podcasts and stuff forever. He's on episode, I think, 206 right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he's kind of like my friendly rival, if you say.
Sure.
Like, he's kind of the reason I'm like, I gotta do 2 a week just to catch up to this motherfucker, But no, I love Peter. He's a great guy, and it's a great show. So
I was just happy to get episode 100 out. I was just like, wow, I made it 100 episodes.
Yeah, I always told myself like episode 100 would be the point where I decide if I'm gonna quit or not. And I'm still here. So
yeah, you've been doing this since 2019.
So I think I started at February 2020 actually.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, so right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So and then the pandemic obviously allowed that to blossom. So
Sure, man.
hell yeah.
I love it, dude. Well, again, thank you for coming on to GXP Podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me.
You're a funny fucking dude, man. You're hilarious. I love it. And we're going to go out with one of your songs. It's called Fuck You.
Ha! That's great. That's great.
Coleman McAllister, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, thank
McAllister
you, man.
Hours Podcast.
Hell yeah. Check out my music too. McCretan Hip Hop. Well, McCretan Hip Hop on Instagram. McCretan is the rap name. I don't really do it a lot, but here it is.
Awesome, man. Thank you, bro.
Yeah, thank you for
Appreciate
having me. Peace.
Fuck the politicians, brewing evil under these conditions. Whack-ass crackers shouldn't even have a pot to piss in. Signing shit that keeps us Americans under, while they're getting their dick sucked by hookers under the covers. Fuck Kim Rails for giving the cops immunity, and all the other things she's done so casually. I'll steal some from Easy scream, fuck the police, lock them up with pop felons and throw away the key. Fuck Joe Biden and his cabinet for fucking us with taxes. That batch of cash won't be worth shit in a rational amount of time. I was almost excited when they stormed the Capitol with an uprise. Middle finger to the man cause he's spinning a web of lies. And fuck the media too while he's filling us up with blues. One vaccine goes out and the animals are let loose. The brainwashing station of an entire generation. Their minds are vacant, might as well erase them. Fuck you for taking away everything from us. Fuck you for making the game of corporate lust. Fuck you for just generally existing. Fuck you for thinking you could come near me. Fuck you for taking away everything from us. Fuck you for making a game of corporate lust. Fuck you for just generally existing. Fuck you for thinking you could come near me. Fuck all these motherfuckers who got a mental disease, poison the weak-minded with whatever belief they preach. It's all garbage, nothing that you can do about it. Listen to Richard Dawkins and get the fuck out of it. Burn down every church that's snatching money from your wallet. Never paying taxes once while slimming down the gauntlet. Fear God forever, he's the only one who can save you. We won't educate you, milk cows and pick up poop. Fuck God, fuck the Pope, fuck Buddha and Moses. Fuck Muhammad and Allah and all their chosen. I'll probably get stabbed for the shit that I've written here. Doesn't matter, cause I already have a finished career. Fuck every small town farmer teaching crap to their daughters. Your ass should be slaughtered for poisoning a tight ass bitch. The brainwashing station of an entire generation. Their minds are vacant, might as well erase them. Fuck you for taking away everything from us. Fuck you for making a game of corporate lust. Fuck you for just generally existing. Fuck you for thinking